What happens when a simple glance turns into a harsh judgment? When assumptions collide with reality, are we ready to confront the truth? Imagine being wrongly accused before a crowd, judged solely by your appearance. Malik, a sharply dressed black teenager, experiences this brutal reality when a biased security guard falsely accuses him of shoplifting at a high-end mall. As tensions rise and the truth unfolds, it forces us to question. How often do our assumptions lead us to injustice? And when those in power must face their own prejudices, what follows? Before we delve into this gripping story, let us know in the comments where you're watching or listening from today. And don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content like this. When suspicion replaces reason, how quickly can control unravel? What happens when the line between authority and bias blurs in a public space? Ethan's steps slowed as he neared the group, his gaze sharp and calculating. Clearing his throat, he spoke with a firm edge. "Hey, what are you all doing here?" One of the boys, casual in a backward cap, met his stare with indifference. "Just hanging out, man. We're not doing anything wrong." But Ethan's focus stayed on Malik, the sharpest dressed among them. His heartbeat quickened. "You," he pointed at Malik. "I've been watching you. What are you up to?" Confused but composed, Malik responded, "Just waiting for my friends." "Why?" The air thickened as Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because you don't look like you're waiting for anything. Have you been inside the store?" His tone had a hard, accusing edge, and Malik's expression shifted, disbelief washing over him. "What? No, I haven't. Just standing here." The lively banter of his friends fell silent, their eyes darting nervously between Ethan and Malik. Sarah, observing from a distance, felt a familiar dread. She'd seen this side of Ethan before, but this time it felt different, heavier. Malik's voice, now shaky yet resolute, broke the tension. "You think I'm shoplifting?" The accusation lingered like a shadow, unsettling and unjust. Ethan stepped closer, his demand cold and unwavering. "Empty your pockets." The command cut through the air, stifling the easy atmosphere of moments ago. The crowd that began to gather watched intently, whispers spreading like wildfire. Malik's stance tightened. "Number, I haven't done anything wrong." Ethan's frustration mounted, his voice rising. "Empty your pockets, now!" The tension snapped as a woman's voice pierced through the onlookers. "What's going on here?" Sarah's heart hammered. She couldn't stay silent any longer. Stepping forward, her voice rang out. "Ethan, that's enough." When the truth catches up, does guilt or regret weigh heavier? And for the wronged, does justice heal the wound or deepen the scar? Ethan sat in the dim silence, the TV now off, a futile attempt to block out the world painting him as a villain. His own breath echoed in the stillness, each inhale heavy with regret. What had he been thinking? In the moment, it had felt instinctual, just doing his job. But now, as the scene replayed in his mind, the reality was undeniable. Malik had done nothing wrong, yet Ethan had treated him like a criminal from the start. The investigation was almost over, and the inevitable loomed. Termination, public disgrace, a reputation tarnished. Malik wasn't just any teenager. He had connections, influence, power. Ethan felt small, just a security guard, a face that no one would remember for anything good. His career in security was over. There was no coming back. His mind wandered to Sarah. She had been there, seen it all, and in the end, she had turned against him. Maybe she had seen the truth more clearly, but it still felt like betrayal. Meanwhile, Malik sat in his father's office, the walls adorned with plaques, awards, and framed stories of his father's accomplishments, symbols of status and power. Growing up surrounded by privilege had never shielded him from the harsh reality of that day. Not his tailored clothes, not his family's wealth, not his father's influence. He stared at his phone, scrolling through the flood of messages, texts and DMs from friends, classmates, and even people he'd barely known. The video had gone viral, and everyone had an opinion. Some messages were supportive, but the weight of it all was overwhelming. When wounds run deep, is healing found in justice or in change? As Malik and Sarah face the aftermath, they're forced to question. What does accountability really mean? But not all the messages were supportive. Some were sharp with anger, others filled with confusion. Why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you do more? The questions cut deep, echoing the doubts Malik had tried to bury. Tossing his phone aside, he shut his eyes, but the memory replayed. Ethan's grip on his arm, the weight of eyes judging him, the whispers of a crowd that assumed the worst before knowing the truth. The humiliation still simmered. Just then, his father entered, his presence commanding, as always. "Malik, we need to talk." Malik straightened, knowing his father had spent the day in tense meetings with the mall's management, navigating the fallout, safeguarding the family name. Reputation was everything to his father, and now it was tangled in a scandal no one had foreseen. "I just got off the phone with the board," his father began, his tone measured. "They're taking this seriously. Ethan will be fired, and they're reviewing all their security protocols." Malik nodded, the words landing with a mix of satisfaction and emptiness. "Good. But it's not just about firing him, Dad. It's about making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." His father's hardened expression softened slightly. "I know, son, we're working on it. But in situations like this, people make mistakes, sometimes big ones." "It wasn't just a mistake, Dad. It was a choice," Malik replied firmly, his gaze steady. A pause lingered, the weight of the conversation thick between them. His father was treating this like a crisis to manage, something to contain, fix, and move on from. But for Malik, it was deeper. It was a scar that wouldn't fade so easily. "I want to be involved," Malik blurted, surprising even himself. "In the changes, in making sure this doesn't just blow over." His father's eyes studied him carefully. "Involved how?" "I don't know yet," Malik admitted. "But I want the policies to actually mean something, to make a difference, for everyone, not just me." After a beat, his father nodded. "All right, Malik, we'll make that happen." The next day, Sarah found herself sitting in the quiet security office, the blank computer screen mirroring her own guilt-ridden thoughts. The investigation had concluded, but the heaviness lingered. She had waited too long to speak up. Let Ethan's control overshadow her better judgment. When she first became a security guard, it was to protect, to help. But routines and quiet biases had crept in unnoticed. Her eyes drifted to the empty desk where Ethan used to sit. Now a reminder of a line crossed, a choice made. He hadn't returned to the mall, and he likely never would. There was a bitter justice in that, but also a lingering guilt. How had it all spiraled so quickly? A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. She turned to see Malik standing there, calm but carrying a weight that wasn't there before. "Hey," he said softly. "You got a minute?" Sarah nodded, her pulse quickening. "Of course. Come in." Malik took a seat across from her, the silence thick. It was the first time they had spoken since that day. She had expected anger, maybe resentment, but all she saw was exhaustion. "I just wanted to say—" "Thanks," Malik finally said, "for speaking up. I know it couldn't have been easy." Sarah's voice faltered. "It wasn't, but it was the right thing to do. I'm just sorry I didn't do it sooner." Malik nodded, his eyes momentarily downcast. It's crazy how things can get out of hand so fast. I never thought something like that would happen to me, you know? But now, I don't know, I'm looking at things differently." Sarah nodded gently. She had been looking at things differently too, reconsidering the quiet ways bias could slip into her work, unnoticed yet impactful. "I think a lot of people are," she said softly. "And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it means something will actually change." Malik managed a faint smile. "Yeah, that's what I'm hoping." Days turned into weeks, but Malik's life hadn't quite returned to normal. Despite trying to lay low, the video of his encounter with Ethan continued to circulate, shared, dissected, and debated. There were calls from advocacy groups, interview requests from local news, and messages from classmates, some supportive, others sharp and questioning. His father shielded him from most of the media chaos, but at school the scrutiny was unavoidable. To some, he was a symbol, a voice against injustice. To others, he was a target of pity, a victim marked by a moment he could never fully escape. Sitting at a quiet cafe with his best friend Ryan, Malik felt the weight of it all. Ryan stirred his drink thoughtfully. "Man, it's wild how everything blew up. One minute we're just hanging out at the mall and the next—" "Yeah," Malik murmured, eyes tracing the passing crowds outside. "It's still hard to wrap my head around. I didn't think something like that would happen to me, you know?" "No one ever does," Ryan replied softly. "But you handled it like a champ. I don't know how you stayed so calm." Malik's gaze dropped to his hands. "I don't know either. I knew if I lost it, things would have gotten worse, especially with Ethan. He wasn't looking to listen." Ryan's expression hardened. "He was just looking for a reason to start something. We all saw it." Malik exhaled slowly. "Yeah, but at least something good is coming out of it. My dad's been talking to the mall's management. Real changes, new training, actual policies that might make a difference." Ryan perked up. "That's huge, man. Maybe it'll stop things like that from happening to other people." "Maybe," Malik echoed, a hint of doubt edging his voice. He wanted to believe in change, but he knew that deeply rooted biases didn't vanish overnight. Ryan leaned in, his voice careful. "You ever think about what's next for you? Like, with everything that happened?" Malik chuckled softly, the weight of the question pressing against him. "Funny you ask. I've been thinking about getting more involved, not just with the mall, but with other stuff. Community programs, maybe talking to schools about what happened." Ryan's eyes widened, impressed. "That's massive, Malik. You'd be great at that." Malik shrugged, a quiet smile forming. "I don't know. I just feel like I can't sit back and pretend this didn't happen. People need to hear these stories. They need to understand." Ryan nodded, and for a while, they sat in silence, the weight of the conversation lingering between them. Malik wasn't sure where this new path would lead, but he knew one thing. He couldn't go back to who he was before. At the mall, the ripple effects of the incident had taken hold. Ethan had been officially terminated, and the management implemented genuine reforms, diversity and bias training led by outside experts, a reconsideration of security protocols. The incident had been a wake-up call, and ignoring it was no longer an option. Sarah attended the first training session, sitting quietly in the back as the instructor discussed unconscious bias. Some examples stung, uncomfortably close to her own actions. She couldn't shake the guilt. Her hesitation had been part of the problem. She had hesitated when it mattered most, and someone else had paid the price. After the session ended, Sarah lingered in the hallway, her mind racing. She had spent years working in security, confident in her ability to be fair. But now, she wondered, how many other moments had she misjudged? How often had her biases guided her actions without her realizing it? Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. A message from Malik. Malik. Hey, Sarah, I'm heading to the mall tomorrow. Thought we could talk if you're free. Sarah hesitated, her fingers hovering over the screen before typing back. Sarah. Yeah, I'll be there. Let's talk. The next day, Malik walked through the mall's familiar halls, each step careful, each glance a reminder of what had happened. The mall had always been a backdrop of his life, a place tied to family memories, investments, and ordinary weekends. Now, it felt different, a space that had betrayed him, yet also became the ground for possible change. But now, it felt different. The carefree trips he used to take here had been replaced by a heavier sense of awareness. Every familiar corner of the mall carried a weight, a reminder of what had happened and the scars left behind. Malik met Sarah near the security office, the same place where their paths had first crossed. She was waiting for him, her posture slightly tense but determined. Malik could tell the incident had changed her too, in ways she probably hadn't expected. Hey, Sarah greeted, offering a small, cautious smile. Hey, Malik replied. For a moment, they stood there, the unspoken weight of their shared experience heavy between them. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice steady but soft. I wanted to apologize again for what happened, she began. I should have stepped in sooner. I saw what was going on, but I froze. I let Ethan take it too far. Malik listened, his expression thoughtful. He appreciated her honesty. Acknowledging a mistake like this wasn't easy, especially when it went against who you believed yourself to be. I get it, Malik said finally. It's not easy to speak up, especially when it's someone you work with. But I'm glad you did in the end. Sarah nodded, relief softening her features. Thanks, and I'm glad you're okay. I've been thinking a lot about everything, and it's made me realize how much more I need to learn. This whole situation, it's opened my eyes. Malik smiled faintly. It's opened a lot of people's eyes, I think. They talked for a while longer, sharing their thoughts about the changes happening at the mall and the larger conversation about racial profiling and discrimination. Malik shared his plans to get more involved in the community, to use his experience to create awareness and spark real change. Sarah promised her support, vowing to stay in touch and help however she could. As they parted ways, Malik felt a sense of closure. He knew the journey wasn't over. There was still work to be done, at the mall, in the community, and within himself. But for the first time since the incident, he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, something good could come from all this. Months later. Richmond Mall was a different place. New policies had been implemented, and the security team had undergone comprehensive training, led by experts who specialized in diversity and bias education. The mall's management made it a priority to create a safer, more inclusive environment for all shoppers, determined to ensure that incidents like the one with Malik would never happen again. Malik had become an advocate for change, speaking at schools and community centers about his experience and the importance of standing against prejudice. His story had inspired others to share their own experiences, igniting conversations that had been long overdue. Sarah continued working at the mall, but her perspective had shifted. She was more aware, more intentional in her interactions. She had learned that being a good security guard wasn't just about enforcing rules. It was about protecting people, all people, with fairness and respect. As for Ethan, he had faded from public view. The last Malik heard, Ethan had left Richmond, struggling to find work after the incident. Malik didn't take pleasure in Ethan's downfall, but he knew that actions had consequences. While Ethan's career had come to an abrupt end, Malik's journey was just beginning. In the end, justice had been served, not just for Malik, but for everyone who had ever been unfairly judged because of the color of their skin. Though the road ahead was long, Malik was ready to walk it, knowing that change was possible and that the ties that bind us are stronger than the forces that seek to divide.